It's Collecting Real Estate, episode number 9 and property number 12 here with Bill Hamel.
Good morning, Stephen.
What was the address? Good morning.
This was 659 Hudson Avenue in Pine Hills neighborhood of Albany.
Okay, so still in Pine Hills?
That was our neighborhood. So I was very familiar with it at this point and looking on the multiple listing service daily for opportunities.
And how long after the last Pine Hills purchase was this one?
Oh, it was shortly after. I would say, probably a handful of months. And this one popped up on the multiple listing service. The address caught my eye. And along with that, probably, I think it was like $23,000 list price was just as attractive to, dig a little deeper on that listing. And, to find out it was a house that had a fire.
Okay, so a couple of things here. First, are you able to set notifications on the MLS for when a property becomes active in a neighborhood that you're interested in?
Yeah, you have any type of filters you want, to create saved searches for yourself, your clients. So yeah, it's very good that way.
Okay, so you can ask a broker that you're working with or an agent to have those notifications ready to go for you if you're an investor who's not a licensed agent.
Absolutely. That's been like that probably 15 years now, where it's become very easy for broker and their clients set up that saved search. Property hits the market. The buyer sees that in real time. They'll see that property hit the market as fast as anyone.
Okay, that's good to know. And you said this was a burned building?
Yeah, it's a single family house, nice colonial in Pine Hills, pretty large. I think it was, close to 2,000 square feet, 4 or 5 bedrooms, couple baths, a lot of nice features in this house, but it was pretty badly burned when we purchased it.
And that was attractive to you to find a burned house that you could do work on?
Well, just looking to see where I could find some value. So when I saw this one, it fit the mold of, buy it cheap, around $20,000, and, doing that construction budget, seeing what I could sell it for on the open market after the project was completed, and, make some money on a flip.
How bad of a burn are we talking here? Was it completely gutted on the inside?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. The way that these property, you have that hot spot, where the fire started. So, the hot spot is always just completely charred. And then, you could imagine that, the adjacent areas, are pretty bad also. But then, you can see when the fire department actually got there, as, the fire was put out, the other areas damage is less and less. But what you find out on these types of properties is when it's put out, they douse the whole house with hoses, and water can be as damaging as fire. So, this turned out to be a total gut job where, we had to, remove the wall finishes, in this case, plaster, which is very heavy and difficult to work with, right down to the studs. So we had to do, new electric, new plumbing, right through the new walls, all the finishes.
So I'm curious what it's like to get an inspection on a house like this, because I recently went through an FHA inspection, and they're circling everything they can see from chip paint to extension cords being used. What is it like getting an inspection on a house that is gutted and has obvious signs of damage?
Well, when we bought it, we didn't do any inspection. So at this point, we had a pretty fair idea of this type of project. So knowing that we were going to be putting in, I think the budget at the time was, probably $60,000-$70,000. And, with that type of budget, we were going to, handle anything that came about, not only the obvious rebuild, but any surprises that pop up. You'd like to think we, incorporated that into our budget. My, partner on this project being my brother, who, he has a construction background as well, was able to also be involved in, the planning of this project and, making sure that we were as prepared as possible for, anything that was going to come our way.
So you weren't worried about structural damage and the bones of the house being in bad shape?
Well, we were worried naturally, but we took a good inspection of it, and we had a pretty fair idea of what we had to gut, what other structural members that may have been compromised from the fire or the water. And, you do the demo up to that certain point where you're comfortable, and you start building from there.
Because this is your 12th property, but if this had been one of your first couple of purchases, you probably wouldn't have gotten into a project like this, right?
No way. I wouldn't even have considered it.
Was it still through that homestead funding construction rehab loan program?
No, this one, I believe we bought this cash, between me and my brother, and we just worked this one through, a lot of sweat labor. This was my project for the next 6 months, and we self-funded this, I believe, because we knew it was going to be turned over, as quickly as we possibly could, being a flip. So, we just self-funded this one and, sold it within a year, and we're able to get all our money back and, some profit.
Now, how did you, because at this point you were working with two partners, your brother Mike and your high school best friend Greg. How did you pick which one to reach out to for each project? Was it kind of you went back and forth?
Well, yeah, it was starting to get, not back and forth quite yet. Greg was my primary partner, and, we had a, not necessarily a system, but, me and Greg were pumping them out, so to speak. And this particular project, it was shortly after that commercial flip that we did. So Mike had become much more involved. And, this one was an easy decision for me because he was a co-owner of a construction company, and this was a heavy lift. So the resources he had at his contracting company were certainly put to use.
So at the beginning, it's reach out to whoever you can, and then eventually you get to the point of reaching out to whoever skill set matches the job that needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're purchasing properties, who's the who's the general partners that fit this property the best. It does, get to that point. Everyone has a different set of resources. And when you're getting into property or any business for that matter, who's the best partner for this next adventure.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm still confused on how you learned how to do this construction rehab yourself. I think I've asked you in the past. I want to do some renovations on a house in the near future. And personally, I struggle to hang a TV, and I have YouTube, which you didn't have at your disposal. So how did you manage to learn that on your own?
Geez, just jumping in and learning. I wish I could explain it better, but, from property number one, and then that was back in, late 93. So here we are 7 or so years in, and, I've had this slow learning curve of swinging the hammer. And, I'm learning more and more as we go, trade by trade. When it gets, the first stuff that was very easy for me right off the bat was, general labor, general demolition work. That's just grunt, hard work, guerrilla work, which I had no problems with. That's easy. And, then you develop skills with, the most common skill in the building trade is painting. So that's, certainly practice makes perfect type thing, as long as you focus on what you're doing, and focus on quality. You can see with your own eyes, like a lot of things in construction. If it looks good, you're on the right track. If it looks bad, you better step back and see what you're doing and improve on that. Otherwise, it certainly affects your finished product. Right to the point where, I got much better at patching walls using drywall compound, hanging wallboard. It's just a matter of doing it for that first time. It helps when there's someone on the job that can give you some pointers, that has had, some experience with it. And, repetition is the mother of skill. So, vocation by vocation, I just got a little bit better over the years. That's it for me. It was just jumping in and learning slowly but surely.
Yeah, it sounds like trial and error. I'm just concerned to practice on my own property, because I think you could definitely see the difference between a professional and someone that's learning. If someone who is in my position is listening to this podcast and they're not sure if they should try and do it themselves or hire a contractor, what do you suggest?
The best way to do it is trying to get somebody that's willing to work with you, that has skills that you're going to pay, a fair wage to, that with the understanding that you're there to help. So you get that person that has ability, and you're the right-hand man. So you're learning from this person as you're helping out, and you're jumping in little by little, watching closely and practicing, what they're doing, jumping in little by little and learning that way. So you're not jumping in and doing it blind, but you're watching this skilled person working right along with you at whatever task you're doing. And, if you're very interested in learning, just watch and practice yourself. And when you don't do so well, that person's there to help you along, fix what you might have done on those practice runs. And, you continue on. So, just like anything, you're just going to get better and better.
Yeah, I think it's good advice. It's kind of a hybrid method of trying it yourself and hiring a professional. Back to the property. When you purchased this, was it a building that you had planned to rehab and resell, or did you want to add it to the Pine Hills portfolio?
No, this was a flip. That was the whole idea. It was a really big house, so it really didn't fit at the time what I thought was a great rental property. It was a big house that I didn't think at the time. I may have been right, may have been wrong, but it was a large house where it kind of exceeded what I thought was the prime rental property, where it seemed to fit more of, that person who was going to owner occupy this. So they would purchase it for their primary residence. Seemed to be, the best use at the time. So the plan was to just buy, fix it up, sell it. And I was probably enticed a little bit by, having that commercial property that we flipped. So I, got a taste of that. So I was probably anxious to make some more quick cash.
Yeah, I think this is 3 in a row now. And you said you kind of regret selling the last one because of how real estate has done so well in the last 20, 30 years. Would you say that you kind of regret selling this one as well?
Yeah, it would have worked out great as a single family rental, without a doubt, because it was a high-end house, and, there's no reason why I wouldn't have been able to get a lot of money for that for, a great tenant. So I don't necessarily regret that one so much. This was a nice learning experience, just to get through that heavy construction project. I lived it for 6 months. It was, that last month or so was very difficult because you reach that burnout stage, where you just want this project to be over. But, any real estate in theory, you never sell, just because it always, goes up. But in real life, you portfolio as many as you can, but it's nice to incorporate some quick cash as well, just to keep that cash flow rolling.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily regret it, but the moral of the story is to collect real estate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Build that portfolio and let real estate do its thing.
Were there any crazy stories? Did you walk in and find someone squatting in the property, or any cockroaches?
No, it was still packed with all their stuff. So the property burned. They really didn't take anything out because there was some serious damage. But there's always some diamonds in there. Some nice antique furniture that we were able to salvage, sell. Most of it ended up in the trash. But yeah, it was no other major surprises other than that. Just getting it cleared out so we could prepare it to gut and start building.
Was there anything specific that this taught you besides how to rehab a house for 6 months?
Yeah, well, it was general contracting without a doubt. So I did, I was the general contractor. I was living this job for 6 months. So you can't do this by yourself. And I certainly didn't have the skill set to do this by myself. So it's a matter of expediting a lot of different locations, when you're doing a gut job. So, we got the demo done. It was a group effort. A lot of my brother's employees from his construction company jumped in. So we probably had 7 or 8 people gutting the house, got through that. And then it's the matter of, getting with the building department, getting the proper permits. And then you're hiring an electrician, you're hiring a plumber, you're hiring heating contractor, you're hiring drywall installers, on and on and on, without getting into the full list. So it's kind of like building a house, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. Is there anything that you would do differently looking back at it?
Yeah, I would have gotten a little bit more help. At the time, it was just the way that I was just deep dive into the project, and I was going to, control the day to day and do as much as I possibly could. So I'm not only the general contractor, I'm also doing a lot of active work on a daily basis, which, just like I've said in the past, you sub as much as you can out just to free yourself up a bit, because I was just consumed for 6 months. There was nothing else I could think about other than this project.
Mm-hmm. You were really consumed in it, and you just flipped 2 properties. You're about to flip this third one. Is this about the point where you start thinking that losing the W-2 job might help you in the long run?
Yeah, I had my eyes on that anyway. So yeah, we're getting closer and closer. I think that I was probably still a year or two. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Right after that commercial flip, I think shortly after, I was able to walk away, because I made some good money on that Citadel Square flip, and I think that was it for me. So at this point, on this project, I didn't have the W-2.
Okay. I know that's a very frequently discussed topic of when to lose the W-2 and go headfirst into whatever entrepreneurial venture it is, if it's real estate or 1099. Was there something that let you make that switch? Was it just the amount of money you got from the commercial flip, or was it something you were waiting for to make that switch?
Well, it was the money I made, which gave you some assurance. Now you had some money in the bank, made you feel comfortable. And then, you get into a job like this, I wasn't the general contractor working for nothing. I was a co-owner, but also the general contractor getting paid on a daily basis. So, this was a big job. So, I was there every day making money. So, it was easy to justify, 7 days a week, I'm making money every day, as the contractor. And then when the property is finalized, and it's liquidated, then I'm making money as the owner as well, with that final proceeds.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to add for this property?
Yeah, this was, the beginning of a great relationship that had, I had met a heating contractor plumber that was referred to us. And, he ended up being, a very, very valuable resource for us for the next 20 years. His name was Bob Jones, and he was, he always had a helper or two, but, he was a great hot water boiler man and also a great plumber. So he helped us out on this project, installed the heating unit, and, gave us some tips along the way on that project. And, it was, he was such a great resource and became such a great friend along the way, where, he just had so much knowledge, and he worked like no one else. So you appreciate that more as you get to know him more and more over the years, where, this guy was old school, and, he worked very hard, very reasonably. He was very dependable, very reliable, and he was a solution to so many of our problems from there on in with our business.
They say it's a relationship business. And when you find someone that's such a valuable asset like that, you have to protect them and keep them close.
Absolutely. And it was great because, I can't say enough about this guy, because we came from different worlds. We really did. He's I would say probably 25 years older than me, and he was from Alabama, but then, living in the inner city of Albany. Here I am coming from the suburbs, but the one big thing that we had in common, we were both just hard workers. So I think that was the value in our relationship. We had such a mutual respect for each other, and it resonated over the years, right till just recently. He was, in his 70s, and I'm already out of property management, and here's me and him, huffing an oil tank, into a basement on a single family that I was selling. So, that was our relationship, where, from the beginning at this property, and then, just probably 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, that we were hauling an oil tank into a basement. We just loved working with each other, because we both had that same work ethic that, it was just, it just bonded us. And he meant so much to me. He had since passed. It was funny because I didn't realize he was 74 years old, and he had an unfortunate accident and passed away, where it was so difficult for me, because when he passed, it was like 2 or 3 months before that, we were huffing that oil tank down into the basement. And, he just meant a lot to me.
Well, thanks for sharing. We can dedicate this episode to Bob Jones.